The long-anticipated confrontation between Britain's rising star Dakota Ditcheva and the battle-hardened veteran Liz Carmouche had stirred excitement throughout the mixed martial arts world long before either woman stepped under the arena lights. Observers recognized early that the matchup represented far more than a simple contest between two skilled competitors. It symbolized a collision of eras, philosophies, and identities within the sport. Dakota carried the energy of a new generation, a fighter shaped by modern athleticism, precise technique, and a brand-ready presence that resonated instantly with fans. Carmouche, meanwhile, embodied the lineage of athletes who carved their names through unyielding grit and adversity, athletes who fought in times when the sport offered neither glamour nor guarantees. As discussion of the bout spread across gyms, broadcast desks, and online communities, analysts and fans alike debated the potential outcomes with nearly scholarly devotion. They parsed techniques, predicted strategies, and speculated on the psychological dynamics that might influence the contest. Dakota's ascent had been nothing short of meteoric. Her knockout victory over Santos served not only as a major statement of her athletic power, but also as a cultural moment that reverberated far beyond the cage. The image of her dancing after the finish, then calmly applying MAC's chili lipstick in the center of the cage, traveled rapidly through social media channels, replayed millions of times by fans who found in her a rare fusion of ruthlessness and effortless glamour. Her celebration was not mere theatrics. It was an expression of identity that challenged long-standing expectations of how fighters were expected to present themselves. Her mother, Lisa Howarth, once a kickboxing world champion, ran into the cage after the win, embracing her daughter in a moment that spoke to legacy and generational evolution. Commentators noted how Dakota's demeanor combined icy precision with bold, expressive confidence. Her blend of composure, athleticism, and flair seemed to signal the arrival of a phenomenon capable of redefining the sport's upper echelon. Yet Carmouche's supporters pointed to the dangers of underestimating a veteran who had weathered storms for years. Carmouche's victory over Sumiko Inaba, though not the most celebrated in her career, demonstrated that she remained a formidable presence. Some critics dismissed the win by arguing that Inaba lacked tools that could trouble someone with Dakota's attributes. Others countered that Carmouche's strength never lay solely in defeating elite prospects. Rather, it lay in her ability to adapt, endure, and turn moments of pressure into opportunities. Throughout her long career, Carmouche had confounded opponents who appeared faster, stronger, or more hyped, reminding them that mastery of timing, leverage, and psychological resilience often outweighed raw explosiveness. Carmouche's life story added further depth to the narrative. A military veteran who entered the sport at a time when opportunities for women were scarce, she represented persistence in its purest form. Her battles inside and outside the cage shaped her into an athlete with an unbreakable mentality. Many fans admired her as a symbol of survival and transformation, believing that if anyone could stand against Dakota's surge of momentum, it would be someone with Carmouche's history. Younger athletes gravitated to Dakota's model of the modern fighter, while others rooted for Carmouche as the guardian of tradition. As anticipation intensified, analysts revisited footage, identifying strengths and vulnerabilities. Dakota's long-range kicks, sharp movement, and explosive counters contrasted with Carmouche's grinding clinch pressure, wrestling efficacy, and deep understanding of positional exchanges. The debates grew more polarized with each passing week. Advocates for Dakota asserted that her accuracy, speed, and composure would likely end the contest before Carmouche found any rhythm. Supporters of Carmouche insisted that her resilience in chaotic battles and her ability to drag opponents into uncomfortable territory could push Dakota into unfamiliar depths. Behind-the-scenes footage from Fight Week added more fuel to the discussion. Dakota trained with unwavering focus, drilling sequences until they appeared automatic. Her sparring partners described how difficult it was to land clean strikes on her and how her kicks carried a level of force that belied her calm demeanor. Carmouche, meanwhile, spent long hours refining the finer elements of grappling, grip adjustments, chain wrestling, transitions around the cage, and the subtle weight shifts that drained opponents' stamina while creating openings. Her camp prepared her to pressure Dakota relentlessly, to force the fight into close quarters where her physical strength and wrestling acumen could shine. The contrast between the fighters became even more pronounced during interviews. Dakota spoke with respectful confidence, every word hinting at a quiet certainty that her trajectory remained unstoppable. Carmouche, equally respectful, delivered her statements with the weight of lived experience, making it clear she harbored no illusions about the challenges ahead, yet remained convinced of her ability to endure and adapt. Their demeanors reflected the broader themes of the matchup: emerging brilliance versus seasoned fortitude. At the ceremonial weigh-ins, the crowd watched intently. Dakota appeared relaxed and composed, her smile radiating calm energy. Carmouche maintained a stoic seriousness, her expression revealing focus sharpened by years of high-stakes competition. When they finally stood face to face, the roar of the audience rose into a wave of expression. Observers attempted to dissect every glance, every breath, searching for clues about how the confrontation might unfold. Fight night arrived with a level of electricity rarely witnessed. Fans from around the world packed the arena, waving flags, shouting chants, and buzzing with anticipation. Commentators adopted a reverent tone, acknowledging that the stakes expanded beyond rankings or titles. This was a battle of eras. Lights flashed, music thundered, and the atmosphere became a living entity as Dakota made her walk to the cage. She danced lightly, confident yet focused, as though the entire moment were an extension of her personal rhythm. Carmouche followed, each step deliberate, carrying decades of experience and the solemnity of someone who had endured countless wars. When she entered the cage, the arena erupted with renewed intensity. After the victory that concluded their eventual clash, Dakota once again applied her lipstick in the center of the cage, this time as a definitive symbol of the future she was forging. Her mother joined her in celebration, and the crowd acknowledged the emergence of an athlete poised to influence the next era of women's MMA. Analysts compared the stages of Dakota's rise with Carmouche's storied longevity, recognizing that both women had contributed to a narrative larger than any single bout. As speculation grew about the qualities each fighter possessed and the lessons their encounter imparted, discussions across the sport deepened. Carmouche's victory over Inaba was re-examined by some who felt it reflected her ability to remain relevant despite the influx of new talent. Others argued that the victory, though impressive, might not have measured her against a test as formidable as Dakota. Yet her supporters emphasized her history of reversing expectations. They recounted stories of fights where Carmouche had survived punishing early sequences only to assert dominance later through tenacity and tactical intelligence. Her long career explored the limits of perseverance and adaptability. Meanwhile, Dakota's reputation continued to expand. Her technical discipline, striking range, and psychological fearlessness made her a figure of fascination. Opponents felt her presence before the cage door shut. Her reputation for merging decisive violence with poised charisma created a following that transcended martial arts enthusiasts. Younger fighters saw in her a template for the future, an athlete who embodied precision, athleticism, modern branding, and a sense of expressive identity uncommon in combat sports. The closer their showdown approached, the more analysts scrutinized archival footage of Carmouche's past battles. They noted her ability to weather attacks from physically superior opponents and transform the tide through timing and endurance. They discussed her skill in closing distance, forcing grappling exchanges, and exploiting opportunities created by pressure. Some analysts believed that if Carmouche could survive Dakota's early striking arsenal and impose her own pace, the fight could shift dramatically. Others countered that Dakota's footwork, reach, and takedown defense would likely nullify Carmouche's intentions, allowing the younger fighter to dictate the terms of engagement. In a broader sense, the matchup represented a classic narrative, the rising prodigy against the unbreakable veteran. It raised questions about the evolution of fighting styles, the role of experience, and the balance between athletic advantage and psychological resilience. Fans argued about whether Dakota's speed and precision would outshine Carmouche's grinding strategies, or whether Carmouche's toughness and ability to navigate long battles would reveal vulnerabilities in Dakota's still young career. As media outlets released promotional material, the emotional weight of the fight became even more pronounced. Video packages contrasted scenes of Dakota's sharp, modern training sessions with sequences of Carmouche engaging in rugged drills that evoked her years spent honing her craft through repetition and hardship. Narratives emerged about the passing, or guarding, of the torch. Some watchers saw the fight as the dawn of a new era. Others perceived it as a final stand for a warrior who had dedicated her life to battling against the odds. When the fighters appeared at pre-fight press conferences, the tension heightened. Dakota retained a serene confidence, her tone measured and her bearing unfazed. Carmouche responded with the poise of someone who understood every layer of what such a moment demanded. Observers sensed mutual respect blanketing an undercurrent of unsaid challenge. Each woman seemed to acknowledge the other not only as a competitor, but also as a representative of a distinct moment in the sport's evolution. On the night of the fight, the arena hummed with collective anticipation. Fans leaned forward in their seats as the fighters entered the cage. The referee gathered them in the center, reciting instructions that they both knew intimately. Dakota nodded with calm assurance. Carmouche held a gaze forged by years of combat experience. The moment distilled the full spectrum of what the sport embodied: courage, ambition, identity, and the quest for greatness. As they touched gloves, the air cracked with emotion. The bell was seconds from ringing, and the world waited for answers to the questions that had consumed it for months. It was a confrontation loaded with significance, an encounter poised to influence not just the trajectory of two fighters but the expectations of generations watching. The stage was set for a contest that would echo across the history of the sport, marking a turning point defined by the meeting of a blazing future and a resolute past. In the aftermath, discussion intensified rather than settled. Analysts dissected every phase of the fight, using it as a lens through which to evaluate the direction of women's mixed martial arts. Some argued that Dakota's composure under the bright lights confirmed her as a generational talent capable of carrying the sport into a new era. Others insisted that Carmouche's resolve demonstrated that experience remained an invaluable asset even in a rapidly evolving landscape. The debate extended beyond technique and strategy. It became a meditation on legacy, growth, and the cyclic nature of athletic dominance. Fighters in gyms around the world reflected on the lessons drawn from the event. Younger prospects studied the fight to understand how psychological stability influenced performance, how preparation met opportunity, and how even the most seasoned competitors could impose danger through sheer resilience. Veterans, on the other hand, saw in Carmouche a reminder that longevity in the sport required adaptability, mental toughness, and a willingness to confront athletes shaped by entirely different training philosophies. The clash became a reference point for coaches and athletes developing new systems of preparation, blending modern sports science with time-tested techniques grounded in experience. Media outlets continued to revisit the narrative, interviewing coaches, training partners, and experts to explore the underlying factors that shaped the bout. Many pointed to the shifting demographics of the sport, noting that athletes like Dakota represented a generation raised within structured systems that emphasized precision, recovery, and psychological conditioning. Carmouche's generation, by contrast, often emerged from more rugged paths, earning their reputations through perseverance in the absence of the sophisticated support structures found in modern gyms. The intersection of these paths created a compelling story that spoke to the broader transformation of combat sports. Fans remained captivated, replaying highlights and analyzing moments of tension, control, and momentum. The fight became a cultural touchstone, symbolizing both progress and continuity. Dakota's triumph served as a declaration that the future had arrived, while Carmouche's performance highlighted the indomitable spirit that had laid the foundation for the sport's growth. The legacy of the bout extended beyond the cage, shaping conversations about what it meant to compete, evolve, and pursue greatness with unwavering commitment. As the sport moved forward, the impact of their encounter continued to resonate. Coaches referenced the fight when teaching new athletes about discipline and adaptation. Commentators cited it as an example of how contrasting styles and backgrounds could converge to produce a moment of historical significance. Fans celebrated it as a testament to the sport's capacity to blend artistry with ferocity, honor with ambition, and tradition with innovation. Ultimately, the matchup between Dakota Ditcheva and Liz Carmouche transcended the immediate result. It became a symbol of transition, a reflection of where the sport had been and where it was heading. It reminded the world that behind every fighter stood a story shaped by sacrifice, determination, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. In witnessing their confrontation, the global community saw not only a contest of skill, but also a profound illustration of legacy in motion. And in that shared experience, the sport found new inspiration, new purpose, and new direction as it entered its next era. In the months that followed, the bout continued to influence discourse in unexpected ways. Training camps adapted their philosophies, developing hybrid models that combined the structured, analytical approach exemplified by Dakota with the rugged endurance and adaptability embodied by Carmouche. Sports psychologists reference the fight when discussing composure under extreme pressure, while fitness experts highlighted the importance of conditioning that balanced explosive movement with long-duration resilience. Fans debated hypothetical rematches, alternative strategies, and the evolving definition of what constituted a complete mixed martial artist. The fight had effectively become a benchmark for evaluating athletes across divisions, demonstrating how innovation and experience could collide to shape a moment that reverberated long after the final bell. In this way, the clash between Dakota and Carmouche lived on not merely as a chapter in their careers, but as a defining event that helped steer the future direction of the sport itself. As new fighters entered the scene, many cited the encounter as a foundational influence on their own development. They studied Dakota's timing and poise, hoping to emulate her ability to merge precision with expressive confidence. They analyzed Carmouche's persistence, drawing lessons from her refusal to yield even when confronted by a younger, faster opponent. The fight served as a reminder that greatness emerged not from a single attribute but from a synthesis of preparation, courage, and adaptability. In gyms across continents, coaches used the matchup as a teaching tool, illustrating how contrasting paths could lead two athletes to a moment that defined an era. It inspired many worldwide.